You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. 87. The Phoenix Immortal Prefecture offends heaven and suffers drought. The great sage sun advocates virtue and provides rain. The great ways hidden and deep. How it waxes and wanes. Once told, will astonish both gods and spirits. Enfolding the universe. Cutting through one's native light, one. It grants the world true, matchless bliss. Before the spirit vulture peak. The treasure pearl, when taken out, will blaze forth 5 kinds of radiance to illumine all life in the cosmos. Those who know live long as mountains and seas. 2. We were telling you about Tripitaka and his 3 disciples, who took leave of the woodcutter and descended the mist-concealing mountain to proceed on the main road. After traveling for several days, they found themselves approaching a city. Wukong, said Tripitaka, can you see whether the city ahead of us is the kingdom of India? No. No, replied Pilgrim, waving his hands. Though the place of Tathagata is named Ultimate Bliss, there is no city as such, only a large mountain in which there are terraces and towered buildings. The name there is the Great Thunderclap Monastery of the Spirit Mountain. Even if we have arrived at the Kingdom of India, it doesn't mean that that's where Tathagata lives. Heaven knows how great a distance there is between the kingdom and the Spirit Mountain. The city over there, I suppose, must be some sort of outer prefecture of India, but we'll know more once we get near it. In a little while they reached the outside of the city. Dismounting, Tripitaka and his disciples walked through the triple gates. Inside they found little human activity, and the streets seemed rather desolate. When they reached the edge of the market, they saw many people wearing blue robes standing in rows left and right. A few who had on official caps and belts were standing beneath the eaves of a building. The 4 pilgrims proceeded along the street, but the people would not step aside for them at all. As Ju 8 Rules had always been a country bumpkin, he stuck out his long snout and yelled, "Get out of the way! Get out of the way!" When those people raised their heads and caught sight of a shape like that, they turned numb with fear and fell all over the place. "A monster spirit's here! A monster spirit's here," they yelled. Trembling all over, those with official caps and belts bowed and said, "Where are you people from?" Fearing that his disciples might cause trouble, Tripitaka immediately went to the front to answer the question. "This humble priest," he said, "is the subject of the great Tang in the land of the East, and has been sent to the great Thunderclap Monastery in the Kingdom of India to seek scriptures from the Buddhist patriarch. As we pass through your treasure region, we have yet to learn of your country's name and seek shelter from a household. Having just entered the city, we fail to give right of way to others, and I beg you various officials to pardon us." One of the officials returned the greetings and said, "This is the outer prefecture of India, and the name of the region is Phoenix Immortal. Because we have had a severe drought for several years, the prefect ordered us to put up here a public notice seeking a priest to pray for rain and save the people." On hearing this, Pilgrim said, "Where's your notice?" "Right here," replied the officials. "We've been sweeping clean the wall and the eave just now, and we have yet to hang it up." "Bring it here and let me have a look," said Pilgrim, and the various officials rolled out the notice at once and hung it beneath the eave. As Pilgrim and his companions drew near, this was the notice they found. "The Prefect Cheng'en of the Phoenix Immortal Prefecture in the Great Kingdom of India hereby promulgates a public notice to seek an enlightened master for the performance of a mighty religious deed. Though the territory of our prefecture is spacious, and though both our military and civilians have been affluent, we have suffered drought and famine for several consecutive years. The fields of the people are unplowed, and the military lands are infertile, the rivers have receded, and the ditches have dried out. There is neither water in the wells nor liquid in the streams. The wealthy can barely subsist, but the poor can hardly remain alive. A bushel of grain costs 100 gold, while 5 ounces of silver is the price of 1 bundle of wood. A 10-year-old girl is given in exchange for 3 pints of rice, while a 5-year-old boy is taken away at will. Those fearful of the law in the city would pawn their clothes and possessions to preserve themselves, but those abusing the public in the countryside will rob and plunder to save their lives. For this reason we have promulgated this notice to plead with the worthy and wise of all quarters to pray for rain and save the people. Such kindness will be heavily rewarded with the payment of 1,000 gold, and this is a sure promise. After he had read it, Pilgrim asked the various officials, "What does the prefect Cheng'en 3 mean?" Cheng'en happens to be his surname, and it's also the name of our prefecture, they replied. But that's quite a rare name, said Pilgrim, chuckling. So elder brother hasn't gone to school, after all. 8 Rules said. Don't you know that toward the end of the book of 100 family names there is the phrase, Cheng'en Ouyang? Disciples, Tripitaka said, let's stop this idle chatter. Whichever one of you knows how to pray for rain should do so on their behalf in order to bring relief to the populace. This is a most virtuous deed. If you cannot, we should leave and not delay our journey. What's so difficult about praying for rain, said Pilgrim. Old Monkey can overturn rivers and seas, alter the course of the planets, topple heaven and upturn a well, belch out fog and cloud, chase down the moon while carrying a mountain, call up the wind and the rain. Which one of these things, in fact, has not been the sport of my youth? There's nothing to marvel at. When the various officials heard what he said, 2 of them quickly went to the prefectural office to report, Venerable Father, 10,000 happinesses have arrived. The prefect was just in the midst of uttering a silent prayer before stalks of lighted incense. When he heard the announcement, he asked, What happinesses? One of the officials replied, Having received the public notice today, we were about to mount it at the entrance of the market when 4 monks arrived. They claimed to be pilgrims sent by the great Tang in the land of the East to seek scriptures from Buddha in the great Thunderclap Monastery of the Kingdom of India. When they saw the notice, they also told us of their ability to pray for rain, and that is why we came especially to report to you. The prefect immediately tidied his clothing and began walking toward the market, not even waiting for carriage or horses to be summoned, in order that he might solicit with great courtesy the help of these priests. When someone on the street announced, the Venerable Father Prefect has arrived, the crowd stepped aside. As soon as he caught sight of the Tang monk, the prefect started bowing low in the middle of the street, not intimidated at all by the hideous appearances of the monk's disciples. Your lowly official named Cheng'en, he said, is the prefect of the Phoenix Immortal Prefecture. With burned incense, and having ritually cleansed myself, I bow to implore the master to pray for rain and save the people. I beg the master to dispense widely his mercy, exercise his magic potency, and answer our needs. Returning his salutation, Tripitaka said, This is hardly the place for conversation. Allow this humble cleric to reach a monastery or temple, where it'll be easier for us to do what we must do. Let the master come to our humble residence, said the prefect. There will be an unsullied area for you to stay. Master and disciples thereupon led the horse and toted the luggage to the official residence. After he had greeted each one of them, the prefect at once ordered tea and a vegetarian meal to be served. When the food arrived in a little while, our 8 Rules ate with abandon like a hungry tiger, so terrifying those holding dishes and trays that their hearts quivered and their gallbladders shook. Back and forth they scurried about to fetch more soup and rice, moving like revolving lanterns. They could barely keep up with the demand, but they did not stop until the pilgrims had satisfied themselves. After the meal, the Tang monk expressed his thanks and then asked, Sir Prefect, for how long has your noble region been afflicted with drought? The prefect said, At India's kingdom, this, our nation great. Of Phoenix Immortal I'm the magistrate. For 3 long years a drought has laid us low. The 5 grains perished, not even grass would grow. Commerce is hard for households big and small. 10 doors or 9 portals are tearful all. 2/3 of us have been by hunger slain, while 1/3 like a wind-blown torch remains. When I this public notice promulgate, it's our luck that true monks have reached our state. If you with 1 inch of rain the people bless, 1,000 gold I'll give for such kindness. On hearing this, Pilgrim showed great delight and said, with a roar of laughter, "Don't say that. Don't say that. If you mention 1,000 gold as repayment, you'll not receive even half a drop of rain. But if you wish to accumulate merit and virtue, Old Monkey will present you with a torrential shower." That prefect, you see, was indeed an upright and honest official who had great love for his people. He immediately asked Pilgrim to take the honored seat. He bowed low and said, "Master, if you would indeed extend your mercy, this lowly official will never dare turn my back on virtue." "Let's not talk any more," said Pilgrim, "and please rise. May I trouble you to take good care of my master, so that Old Monkey can act?" "Elder brother," said Shaw Monk, "how will you act?" "You and 8 rules come over here," replied Pilgrim. "Stand at the foot of the steps of the hall there and serve as my ritual assistants. Let Old Monkey summon the dragon here to make rain." 8 rules and Shaw Monk obeyed. When the 3 of them all stood at the foot of the steps of the hall, the prefect burned incense and worshipped, while Tripitaka sat and recited a sutra. As Pilgrim recited a magic spell, immediately a dark cloud arose from the east and gradually drifted down to the courtyard in front of the hall. It was actually Aoguang, the old dragon king of the Eastern Ocean. After the cloud had been retrieved, Aoguang took on human form and walked forward to bow and salute Pilgrim, saying, "In what capacity may this humble dragon serve the great sage who has summoned me?" "Please rise," said Pilgrim. "I've troubled you to come from a great distance only for one purpose, and that is to ask you why you have not provided rain to relieve a drought of several years here at the prefecture of Phoenix Immortal." "Let me humbly inform the great sage," said the old dragon. "Though I may be able to make rain, I am subject to the will of heaven. If heaven above has not authorized me, how could I dare come here to make rain?" Pilgrim said, "Because I passed through this region and saw how the people suffered from such a prolonged drought, I asked you especially to come and bring relief. Why are you making excuses?" "Would I dare do that?" said the Dragon King. "When the great sage recited his magic spell, I would never dare not show up. But I have not been authorized by heaven in the first place, and, second, I have not brought along the divine warriors in charge of making rain. How could I start anything? If the great sage indeed has such eleemosynary intentions, allow this little dragon to return to the sea and summon his troops. Meanwhile, let the great sage make a memorial at the celestial palace and ask for an imperial decree authorizing the descent of rain. Request the aquatic officials to let loose the dragons, and then I'll be able to make rain according to the amount specified by the decree." As Pilgrim could not quite controvert this proper argument that the old dragon offered, he had to let him return to the sea. He himself then jumped out of the star-treading pattern to give the Tang monk a thorough account of what had happened. "In that case," said the Tang monk, "you may go and do your duty, but you must not utter even a word of falsehood." Pilgrim at once gave this injunction to 8 rules and Shaw Monk, "Guard the master, for I'm going up to the celestial palace." "Dear great sage." He said he was leaving and at once vanished from sight. Quaking with fear, the prefect asked, "Where has venerable Father Sun gone to?" "He mounted the clouds to ascend to heaven," said 8 rules, chuckling. The prefect became more respectful than ever. An order was hurriedly dispatched to the broad boulevards and narrow alleys, asking all the people, whether they be nobles or plebeians, civilian or military, to set up a placard for the Dragon King in front of each household. Clean water jars with willow twigs stuck inside were to be placed by the doors, and incense was to be burned so that all could worship heaven. Here we shall leave them for the moment. We tell you instead about Pilgrim, who reached the West Heaven Gate with a single cloud somersault. The Devarajad Tara led a group of celestial soldiers and Veera to greet him with the question, "Great sage, have you completed the enterprise of scripture seeking?" "The end can't be too far off," replied Pilgrim. "We have reached the border of the Kingdom of India, where there is an outer prefecture by the name of Phoenix Immortal. That place has not had rain for 3 years, and the people are in terrible straits. Old Monkey wanted to pray for rain to bring relief, but when I summoned the Dragon King there, he claimed that he dared not do it on his own authority. I have come here, therefore, to request a decree from the Jade Emperor." I am quite sure that rain is forbidden at that particular place, said the Devaraja, for I have heard that the prefect, because of some mischief, has offended heaven and earth. As a punishment, the Jade Emperor established a rice mountain, a noodle mountain, and a huge square lock of gold. Until these three things are overturned, there will be no rain for the region. Not knowing, however, what the Devaraja was speaking of, Pilgrim insisted on an audience with the Jade Emperor. The Devaraja dared not bar his way, and he was permitted to go inside till he reached the Hall of Perfect Light. He was then met by the four celestial masters, who asked, "What is the great sage doing here?" "While escorting the Tang monk," said Pilgrim, "I arrived at the border of the Kingdom of India. Because of a severe drought at the prefecture of Phoenix Immortal, the prefect sought magicians to make rain. When Old Monkey managed to summon the Dragon King and ask him to make rain, he said that he dared not do it without the explicit decree of the Jade Emperor. Hence I've come to request a decree to relieve the people's suffering." "But it should not rain at that region," said the celestial masters. With a laugh, Pilgrim said, "Whether it should or not, please announce my presence and see whether Old Monkey can win this favor." The immortal Gu said, "As the proverb has it, a fly wraps around a net, what a large countenance." "For stop this babbling," said Su Jingyang. "Let's take him inside." Thereupon Qiu Hongji, Zhang Daoling, Gu, and Su, these four realized immortals, led the visitor into the Hall of Divine Mists to memorialize, saying, "Your Majesty, we have here Sun Wukong, who is passing through the Phoenix Immortal Prefecture of the Kingdom of India. Wishing rain for the people, he has come especially to seek your decree." "On the 25th day of the 12th month 3 years ago," said the Jade Emperor, "we were out on tour to inspect the myriad heavens and float through the three realms. When we arrived at that particular region, we had occasion to witness that Shangguan right in the midst of his wickedness. He pushed over the sacrificial mager intended for offering to heaven, and fed it to dogs instead. Furthermore, he even made obscene utterances and committed the sin of blasphemy. For this reason, we established three things in the fragrance-draping hall, to which all of you should lead Sun Wukong to see. If these things have been overturned, we shall grant him a decree. If not, he should be told to mind his own business." The four celestial masters at once led Pilgrim to the hall to look around. There they came upon a mountain of rice, about 100 feet tall, and a mountain of noodles, about 200 feet in height. At the side of the rice mountain was a chicken no larger than a human fist, which was pecking at the rice at a rather irregular pace, now speeding up, now slowing down. Over at the noodle mountain was a golden-haired puppy, a Peking pug, which, with an occasional flick of his tongue, was lapping up some of the noodles. On the left side of the hall, moreover, there was an iron rack with a large square lock, at least 15 inches in length, hanging from it. Beneath the key of the lock, no thicker than a human finger, was a small lamp, its tiny flame barely touching the key. Not knowing what to make of the sight, Pilgrim turned to ask the celestial masters, "What does this mean?" One of them replied, "Because that fellow has offended heaven, the Jade Emperor established these three things. Not until the chicken has finished pecking the rice, the dog has lapped up all the noodles, and the lamp has burned through the key of the lock will there be rain in that region." When he heard these words, Pilgrim was so taken aback that he paled with fright. Not daring to present another memorial to the emperor, he walked out of the hall, visibly embarrassed. "The great sage need not be overly perplexed," said one of the preceptors. "This affair can only be resolved by virtue, for if there is a single thought of kindness and mercy to stir up heaven above, the rice and noodle mountains will topple immediately, and the lock key too will snap at once. You must go and persuade that prefect to do good, and blessing will be on its way." Pilgrim agreed. Not taking leave of the Jade Emperor at Divine Mists, he went straightway below to answer a mortal man. In a moment he arrived at the West Heaven Gate, where he saw Devaraja Tara again. "Did you succeed in getting a decree?" asked the Devaraja. Having given an account of the matter of the Rice Mountain, the Noodle Mountain, and the Golden Lock, Pilgrim said, "He did refuse to grant me a decree, as you told me he would. But when the Celestial Masters sent me off just now, they also instructed me to persuade that fellow to return to virtue, and blessing would come to him as before." Thus they parted, and Pilgrim descended on a cloud to the region below. When he arrived, the prefect, Tripitaka, 8 Rules, Sha Monk, and all the officials, great and small, crowded around him to question him about his journey. Pilgrim singled out the prefect and bellowed at him, "Because you offended heaven and earth 3 years ago, on the 25th day of the 12th month, you brought a great ordeal on your people, for heaven now refuses to grant you rain." These words so astonished the prefect that he fell prostrate on the ground, asking, "How did the master learn of the incident 3 years ago?" "How could you," said Pilgrim, "push down sacrificial mager intended for offering to heaven and feed it to dogs? You'd better give us an honest account." Not daring to conceal anything, the prefect said, "On the 25th day of the 12th month 3 years ago, we indeed offered sacrificial mager to heaven in our residence. Because of my wife's ill behavior, she taunted me, in fact, with some nasty words. I was momentarily blinded by anger and pushed down the votive table, spilling all the vegetarian food. At that point I did in fact get the dogs to come and eat it up. Since then this incident has lingered in my memory and often driven me to distraction, but I know of no way to present an explanation. I hadn't realized that heaven above took offense and brought harm to the people on my account. Now that the master has descended again to this region, I beg you to reveal to me how heaven intends to reckon with me." Pilgrim said, "That day happened to be the epiphany of the Jade Emperor to the region below. When he saw you feeding the sacrificial mager to dogs and mouthing obscene words, he at once set up 3 things as reminders of your transgression." "What 3 things?" asked 8 Rules. "At the fragrance draping hall," replied Pilgrim, "a rice mountain approximately 100 feet tall, and a noodle mountain about 200 feet in height were set up. By the rice mountain there was a chicken no larger than a fist, pecking away rather leisurely at the rice. At the noodle mountain there was a golden-haired Peking pug, lapping up some of the noodles with an occasional flick of his tongue. On the left side of the hall, moreover, there was an iron rack with a huge lock made of yellow gold hanging from it, its key as thick as a finger. Below the key is a lamp, but the flame is barely touching the key. Not until the chicken has finished pecking the rice, the dog lapping up the noodles, and the lamp burning through the key is there to be rain in this region." Chuckling, 8 Rules said, "No problem. No problem. If elder brother is willing to take me there, I'll undergo magical transformation and finish off all that rice and noodle in a single meal. We'll break the key too, and there'll be rain." "Stop babbling, idiot," said Pilgrim. "This happens to be a device of heaven. How could you undo it?" "In that case," said Tripitaka, "what shall we do?" "It's not too difficult." "It's not too difficult," said Pilgrim. "When I was about to come back, the 4 celestial masters told me that this matter could be resolved only by doing good." Prostrating himself on the ground, the prefect pleaded, "I beg the master to inform me. This lowly official will obey all your instructions." "If you indeed repent and return to virtue," said Pilgrim, "and make it your early practice to worship Buddha and read scriptures, I shall see what I can do for you. But if you refuse to change, even I cannot undo your miseries. Before long heaven will decree your execution, and your life will not be spared." Touching his head to the ground, the prefect vowed that he would submit to religion. At once he gave the order for Buddhist and Taoist clerics of his region to begin performing services for 3 days, about which they had to write up detailed documents, burn them, and send them to heaven above. The prefect himself personally led his subjects in worship, and in the presentation of incense in order to appease heaven and earth and do penance. Tripitaka, too, also recited sutras for him. In the meantime, another order was dispatched with all speed to every household within and without the city. Each man and woman was to burn incense and chant the name of Buddha. From that moment on the sound of good works could be heard everywhere. Highly pleased by what he saw and heard, Pilgrim said to 8 Rules and Sha Monk, "The 2 of you should take care to guard our master. Let Old Monkey make another trip for him." "Elder brother," asked 8 Rules, "where do you want to go this time?" "Since this prefect has believed the words of Old Monkey," replied Pilgrim, "and has received indeed our teachings, and since he is now chanting the name of Buddha with due reverence, compassion, and sincerity, I will go again to memorialize to the Jade Emperor and beg some rain for him. If you wish to go, elder brother, said Sha monk, you need not hesitate so that our journey will not be delayed. Do finish this rain service for them in order that our right fruit, too, may be perfected. Dear great sage. Mounting the clouds, he reached the heaven gate, where he was greeted by the question of Devarajatara, why are you here again? That prefect, replied Pilgrim, has already returned to virtue. The Devaraja, too, was delighted. As they conversed, they saw the messenger of direct talismans arrive, holding Taoist documents and Buddhist rescripts to be sent through the heaven gate. When the messenger saw Pilgrim, he saluted him, saying, this is the merit of the great sage in his evangelical work. Where are you sending these documents? Asked Pilgrim. To the Hall of Perfect Light, replied the messenger, so that the celestial masters may present them before the Jade Emperor, the great celestial honored one. In that case, Pilgrim said, you walk ahead, and I'll follow you. As the talisman's messenger entered the gate, Devarajatara said, great sage, there's no need for you to have an audience with the Jade Emperor. You need only to go to the Bureau of Appointed Seasons of the Ninefold Heaven, and ask for the thunder deities. When you have started the thunder and lightning, rain will be on its way. Indeed, Pilgrim followed his advice. After entering the heaven gate, he did not proceed to seek another decree at the Hall of Divine Mists. Instead, turning his step on the clouds, he went straight to the Bureau of Appointed Seasons of the Ninefold Heaven. He was met by the Thunder Gate messenger, the recorder of collective registry, and the recorder of the Provincial Judicial Commission, who saluted him and asked, to what do we owe this visit, great sage? There's something, replied Pilgrim, for which I must have an audience with the celestial worthy. The three messengers at once went in to make the announcement, and the celestial worthy walked out from behind the royal cinnabar screen adorned with 9 phoenixes. After having tidied his attire, he met his visitor. When they had finished their exchange of greetings, Pilgrim said, I've come with a special request. What is it? Asked the celestial worthy. Pilgrim said, I escorted the Tang monk to the prefecture of Phoenix Immortal. When he saw how severe a drought they have been having, I promised the people that I would seek rain on their behalf. Now I've come specially to request the assistance of your officers to go there and provide thunder. I happen to know that the prefect has offended heaven, said the celestial worthy, as a result of which 3 conditions have been established. I wonder if it should rain in that region. Pilgrim said, yesterday I went to request a decree from the Jade Emperor, and he told the celestial masters to lead me to the fragrance draping hall to look at those 3 conditions. They were actually a rice mountain, a noodle mountain, and a golden lock. The condition was that only when the mountains topple, and the key snaps would there be rain. I was deeply troubled by the difficulty of meeting these conditions, but the celestial masters instructed me to go and persuade the prefect and his subjects to do good. Their idea was that when man has a virtuous thought, heaven will grant him support. They assured me, in fact, that the works of virtue would alter the mind of heaven and bring deliverance to the people's suffering. Now that a virtuous thought has indeed sprung up in the prefect, and that the sound of virtue can be heard everywhere in that region, the messenger of direct talismans has already reported to the Jade Emperor with documents recording such deeds of repentance and penance. That is the reason Old Monkey has come to your honored residence to request the assistance of your thunder officials. In that case, said the celestial worthy, I'll send the squires of thunder Deng, Xin, Zhang, and Tao, who will lead the mother of lightning to follow the great sage to the prefecture of Phoenix Immortal to sound the thunder. In a little while, the 4 warriors, on arriving at the region of Phoenix Immortal with the great sage, immediately began to exercise their magic in midair. All you could hear were powerful peals of thunder, and all you could see were blinding flashes of lightning. Truly, electric flash like purple gold snake, and thunder like all creatures aroused. Ablaze are the flying flames. The cracks topple mountain caves. The lightning lights up the heavens. The tumult unhinges the earth. One scarlet gold flash the seedlings quickens. A whole, large empire is rocked and shaken. For 3 full years the people at the prefecture of Phoenix Immortal, regardless of whether they were civilians or military personnel, or whether they lived inside or outside of the city, had not heard the sound of thunder. When they encountered both thunder and lightning this day, all of them fell to their knees. Some of them held up incense braziers on their heads, while others picked up willow twigs. All of them chanted, Namo Amitba. Namo Amitba. Such a cry of virtue indeed alerted heaven above, just as the ancient poem said. One wish born in the heart of man is known throughout heaven and earth. If vice or virtue lacks reward, unjust must be the universe. Let us leave the great sage for a moment, as he directed the deities who were producing thunder and lightning at the prefecture of Phoenix Immortal. We tell you instead of the messenger of direct talismans in the region above, who escorted the documents of both Buddhists and Taoists up to the Hall of Perfect Light. They were then taken by the 4 celestial masters to present to the Jade Emperor. The Emperor said, if those fellows down there have turned their thoughts to good, we should take a look at the 3 conditions. Even as he was speaking, a guard from the fragrance-draping hall arrived to make this report. Not only have the rice and noodle mountains toppled, but all the rice and noodles have vanished in an instant. The key to the lock is also broken. No sooner had he finished this memorial, when a celestial court attendant arrived, leading the local spirit, the city deity, and the spirits of land and grain at the prefecture of Phoenix Immortal. All the gods bowed to the Jade Emperor and memorialized, the prefect, and the entire population of our region have repented. There is not a single household, indeed not a single person, which has not embraced the fruit of virtue by worshipping Buddha and revering heaven. We beg you now, therefore, to extend your mercy, and let the sweet dew descend to succor the people. Filled with delight by what he heard, the Jade Emperor at once issued this decree. Let the Bureau of Wind, the Bureau of Clouds, and the Bureau of Rain follow our instruction to go to the region below. Within the territory of the prefecture of Phoenix Immortal at this day and hour, let them sound the thunder, deploy the clouds, and lower 3 feet and 42 drops of rain. The 4 celestial masters transmitted this decree to the various bureaus, the deities of which all roused themselves to exercise their divine power in the world below. Pilgrim and the thunder gods, meanwhile, were telling the Mother of Lightning to ply her tricks in midair when they were joined by the other arriving deities. In no time at all, clouds and wind came together, and sweet rain descended in torrents. Marvelous rain. Endless dense clouds. Boundless black fog. Thunder cracking. Lightning flashing. Violent wind churning. Sudden rain pouring. This is how one thought could move heaven. And all people realize their hopes. Since the great sage has caused decisive change, the empire grows dark for 10,000 miles. A good rain like seas and rivers upturned, obscuring land and sky. A cascade hangs before the eaves, and chimes resound beyond the screens. In every door people chant the Buddha's name, and water runs wild through 6 streets and marts. Rivers, east and west, are filled to the brim. Streams are flowing freely both north and south. Shriveled sprouts are moistened. Withered woods now revive. In the fields hemp and wheat flourish. In the village grains and beans increase. The traders find joy in commerce. The farmers once more love their plowing. From henceforth millet and grain will prosper. Their tillage yield naturally rich harvests. With rain and wind in season the people rest. And in calm seas and rivers enjoy peace. In a single day there descended the full measure of 3 feet and 42 drops of rain. As the various deities gradually halted their activities, the great sage cried out in a loud voice, "Let the deities of the 4 bureaus temporarily stay their cloudy attendance. Allow Old Monkey to go ask the prefect to make his proper expression of thanks. All of you can then sweep aside the mist and cloud to reveal your true forms. When these common mortals have seen you with their own eyes, they will then believe and sacrifice to you with constancy. On hearing this, the gods had no choice but to remain in midair. Lowering the direction of his cloud, Pilgrim went to the prefecture, where he was met by Tripitaka, 8 Rules, and Shamunk. The prefect made a bow with each step he took to express his gratitude. "You shouldn't thank me," said Pilgrim, "but I have managed to detain the deities of the 4 bureaus here for the moment. Assemble many of your people quickly and thank them, so that they will return in the future to grant you rain." The prefect accordingly sent out an immediate dispatch to all the people that they should hold lighted incense and bow to the sky. When the mist and clouds moved apart, what the people saw were the revealed true forms of the deities of the 4 bureaus, these being the Rain Bureau, the Thunder Bureau, the Cloud Bureau, and the Wind Bureau. This was what they saw. The Dragon King's revealed form. The Thunder God's exposed body. The Cloud Boy's appearance. The Earl of Wind's true image. The Dragon King's revealed form. Such silver beard and hoary face matchless in the world. The Thunder God's exposed body. Such incomparable hooked mouth and forceful mien. The Cloud Boy's appearance. Who could rival his jade-like face and head of gold? The Earl of Wind's true image. Who resembles his round eyes and bushy brows? Jointly they emerge in the blue heavens, each showing in turn his holy presence. Phoenix immortal people then believe. Worship with incense, and their evils leave. Once they have seen heaven's warriors this day, they cleanse their hearts and virtue now obey. The various deities lingered for an hour, and the people did not cease in their worship. Pilgrim's sun rose again into the air to salute them, saying, "We've troubled you. We've troubled you. Please return to your bureaus, all of you. Old Monkey will make certain that the households in this prefecture are faithful in their offerings, and make oblation in due season to thank you. From now on, please return every 5th day to give the people wine, and every 10th day to give them rain. Do come back, all of you, and vouchsafe your salvation to them." The deities agreed, and they all returned to their bureaus, where we shall leave them. We tell you instead about the great sage, who dropped down from the clouds and said to Tripitaka, "Our affairs concluded, and the people are safe. We can pack and move on." On hearing this, the prefect quickly saluted them, saying, "How could you say that, venerable father-son? What you have accomplished here are kindness and merit without limits. This lowly official has already asked for a small banquet to be prepared as a token of our gratitude for your great kindness. We intend also to buy some land from the people so that we may build a monastery, in truth, to establish a living shrine to you. Your names will be inscribed on steels, so that you may enjoy our offerings in all 4 seasons. But even if I were to engrave your deed on my bones and carve it on my heart, I could not repay a fraction of your kindness. How can you say, then, that you want to leave? Though you may find it appropriate to say what you said, Your Excellency, said Tripitaka, you must realize also that we are but mendicants journeying to the west. We dare not stay long. In a day or 2 we shall certainly leave. The prefect, of course, would not let them go. He gave the order that preparations for the banquet be made immediately, and also that work begin that very night for the building of the shrine. The next day a grand banquet was given, in which the Tang monk was asked to take the honored seat. The great sage Sun, 8 Rules, and Sha monk all had their own tables, while the prefect and his subordinates, high and low officials, all took turns to present food and drinks to the accompaniment of fine music. The entertainment lasted 1 whole day, and it was a delightful occasion indeed, for which we have a testimonial poem. After a long drought the fields meet sweet rain. Commerce and rivers freely flow again. We have to thank the divine monk's advent. And the great sage who to Heaven's palace went. 3 things of former evil now undone. 1 thought contrite has fruits of virtue won. Henceforth may it e'er be like Yaoshun times. Rich harvests and rains due in all 4 climes. There was a party one day, and there was a banquet the next, It went on like that for almost half a month, during which time they were also waiting for the monastery to be built and the living shrine to be finished. One day the prefect asked the 4 pilgrims to go look at the building. "It's an enormous labor," said an astonished Tang monk. "How can you get it finished so quickly?" "This lowly official," replied the prefect, "has ordered the laborers to work night and day in order that they might complete their task speedily. Now I'm inviting the venerable fathers especially to go see it." "You're indeed a worthy prefect," said Pilgrim with a smile, "one who has not only virtue but ability as well." They thus went to the new monastery. When they saw the towering edifices and the magnificent gates, they were full of praise. Pilgrim then requested his master to name the monastery, and Tripitaka said, "Yes, let us call it the Monastery of Salvific Rain." "Very good. Very good," exclaimed the prefect. Brushed gold notices were then set up to recruit qualified priests to attend the fires and incense. On the left of the main hall, living shrines were erected to the 4 pilgrims, at which offerings would be made in all 4 seasons. There were plans also to build shrines to the thunder deities and dragon deities as tokens of gratitude for their divine works. After witnessing all of this, the pilgrims decided to leave. Knowing that their benefactors could no longer be detained, the populace of the entire prefecture came with gifts and cash, but not even a penny was accepted. Thereupon the officials and the civilians of the entire region formed a huge entourage, with the waving of banners and the beating of drums, to escort the pilgrims out of the city. Even after some 30 miles they could not quite bring themselves to part with the pilgrims, whom they escorted yet another distance with tearful eyes. Only when the pilgrims disappeared from sight did the people turn back. Thus it is that a virtuous divine monk leaves salvation behind. The great sage, equal to heaven, spreads his kindness wide. We do not know how many days must pass before they get to see Tathagata. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you.